Want to be a topper in MBA entrance exams? Join BYJU'S Exam Prep, CAT and MBA YouTube channel and watch serial 99 percentilers teaching you the tips and tricks.
Good morning everyone. Welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep. My name is Alpa Sharma and this is our editorial analysis. I hope I'm clearly audible and visible to everybody. Welcome back to a new week, a new class, and we're going to do something really interesting today. Yes, clearly audible and visible. Thank you, Diya. Thank you. Very good morning. So I have a surprise for you today. Okay, and of course I'm not going to reveal it right now. I'll keep the surprise for the second half. The first half we're going to do our usual article. I've brought two articles today. Hi Vijay, good morning. And let me tell you what exactly have I brought. So, as I had promised you that not only reading articles from the common magazines or common newspapers like the Hindu, Indian Express, the Guardian, New York Times, which we had been doing for quite a while, I had promised you that I'll be bringing extracts out of books. So, I have two extracts from very popular books. Probably you haven't read the books, but I'm sure you know about the topic that's being discussed in both the extracts that I have. And I have a surprise for you in the second half, which I'm going to reveal only in the second half. So you'll have to stick with me till the second half, and I'm sure you're going to be really happy looking at that. Jai Jagannath and good morning. Good morning, everyone. All right, so two extracts from two books, and both the extracts talk about history and politics. So, are you excited to look at both the articles, everyone? Both of them talk about history and politics. One about Indian, the other not about Indian history and politics. And I'm sure you must be thinking, why do I need to read Indian politics? What is the use of that? You'll know that gradually. So, are you guys excited to have a look at that? We're going to be doing contextual vocabulary, no separate vocabulary in a slide. Okay. Hi, good morning, roosters, and everyone else. I'm absolutely great. I'm really happy that I brought these articles today, and I'm sure you're going to love them. I'm absolutely sure. So we have contextual vocabulary. We'll discuss the tone, summary, and many inferences. So that's about the articles today. So let's have a start with it. Let's have a look at. I would stick up. You're welcome. You most welcome, Diya, and I'm glad you would stick. So let's start with the first article, okay? And this article talks about a very prominent personality that our country has had. And when I talk about our country's history in terms of politics, I'm not going to delve deeper into the dirty politics that happened. We're going to be talking about the history that we are taught in our schools, okay? So this article refers to one of those. There's a person who's written this article. There's a person who is in a conversation. You have to make a guess who the person is. If you know a bit about our constitution, about framing of it, about who were the popular people who influenced the establishment of our democracy, about the establishment of the popular political parties that our country has today, you would exactly know who the author of this article is. So let's start with the first article that we have today, okay? So this article, who is the writer? You have to guess towards the end. But this article talks about Ranade. So you can call him Justice Ranade. Have you heard about Ranade? Do you remember who he was? Do you have any memory of reading about him in your history books? Can you make a guess without Googling who he was? I'll tell you a gist about him, even if you do not know. But do you remember? Hi, good morning. I'm absolutely good. Do you remember who was Ranade? Yes, after the session, Prats. Perfect. You remember who he was? Justice Ranade. Yes, you remember. So I'll give you a little bit of gist about him. He was one of the judges, not a politician. You can't call him a strict politician, but he was a co-founder of the INA, the Indian National Congress, and a person who worked relentlessly for the society, the alma mater of the University of Mumbai, and many achievements that have been into the list the many feathers into his hat. So that's how he's popularly known as Justice Ranade. This article talks about Justice Ranade. Read the page and send me a done when you're done with that. Then we'll talk more about him. Done. Okay, great. Let's talk about a few things. Okay. One, I'm sure you know of the figures of speech like alliteration, simile, metaphor, onomatopoeia, personification. I'm sure you've heard of them. Figure of speech is basically a writing style, not plainly writing, but writing it in a manner that makes the writing very attractive for the reader. There's a very prominent figure of speech that we see here in this line. Okay, here is the line. Yes. So he was not merely a lawyer and a judge. He was a first-class economist, historian, educationist, and first-class divine. I'll explain what kind of figure of speech is used here because that might give you questions on figures of speech. So the figure of speech that's used here is called a climax. Climax, if you look at the word, literally means the end. But that is not what a figure of speech means. The figure of speech climax means you gradually climb stairs and increase the degree of appreciation. Do you see climax happening here? Not the end, but increment in the degree of appreciation. Can you notice that? So he moves on from calling him a first-class economist to a first-class historian to an educationist, and then he calls him a divine. You see that happening? On the contrary, there's another figure of speech that's called anticlimax. I'll explain anticlimax to you as well. Yes, going from good to even better. Yes, that's climax. Now, obviously, when I say anticlimax, it moves this way. And anticlimax is always used to demean somebody. It's a very offensive statement. I'll give you a simple example that I use many times in my classes. So if somebody tells me, ma'am, you are I'll write this down here. An example of an anticlimax. He lost his family and his phone. Do you see the anticlimax here? Are you able to figure out the anticlimax? He lost his family and his phone. Is it not demeaning? I mean, he is losing his family, but probably he's more worried about losing his phone. Yes, that's depreciation. You try to demean somebody. You go down the line by starting off with a good. Yes, it's good to bad. Yes, Kinjal. That's how you move on to an anticlimax. So I hope you're able to identify the climax here and anticlimax as well, along with another example. So now let's read a few more sentences here. You see, it's basically, do you understand, the entire paragraph is written to appreciate Ranade. And there are many aspects on which he is appreciated. So there are many difficult words. Let's understand those difficult words. Exactly. Yes, Dia. So let's talk about the meaning of the words. So he says, was he a great man? And then he, within the next line, instantly starts on to appreciate Ranade. He says he is a brilliant man. in every aspect that you can see. You can call him Your Eminence. Why Your Eminence? Because possibly it sounds like somebody who can't pronounce eminence, so he would say eminence. Now, eminence is somebody who holds a lot of value and is respected. So you can call him Your Eminence. If you can't pronounce eminence, you can call him Your Eminence. Although eminence means something that's immediate, okay? So eminence is somebody who's very influential, somebody who has a lot of power and poise. That's Your Eminence. And then he goes on to say he was versatile. He had a sanguine temperament. What is the meaning of the word sanguine? Of course, you know sanguine has to be a positive word only because the entire paragraph focuses on positivity. Absolutely, Dia. Adulatory is the tone of the entire page. The entire page aims at appreciating, idolizing. Yes. Exactly, Pradhan. That's why that was anticlimax. Okay. So, what does sanguine mean here? It, of course, is a positive one. I'll tell you, sanguine can also be a tone. A tone of the author can be sanguine. Sanguine means some optimistic. So optimistic, of course, can be a tone. I'll say India lost the last World Cup. Nonetheless, we're going to win the next World Cup. I'm very, very sure about that. My tone here is optimistic. A very positive attitude. Exactly, Shweta. A very positive one. That's sanguine. He had a sanguine temperament. He always looked forward with a positive attitude. And this attitude and everything that the author says here isn't a braggart sincerity. Braggart is to brag about something, okay? So that means, oh, this is my achievement and that is my achievement and you keep bragging about that. This was not a braggart sincerity. It was a genuine sincerity. You see that it's written here, here, a genial disposition. You can call it a congenial disposition as well. His disposition, how he carried himself, very calm. Exactly. Yes, Om. So positive and calm attitude, okay? And everything else is basically an appreciation. So, and he says he was not a politician because probably if he were a politician, he might not have been a great man. So, can I indirectly infer here that the author thinks politicians probably aren't great men? I can draw this logical conclusion here, right? If you are a politician, you probably aren't a great man. To be a great man, you have to move away from politics. So, we'll come back and touch upon this again. Can you now guess who the writer of the article was? Can you guess who the writer of the article was? No? Okay, let's move on. You probably will make a guess again. Absolutely, yes. Yes, Prads. Okay, so let's move on to the next page. Read the next page, everyone, and send me a done. Very, very important paragraph. Exactly, Dia. Yes. Done? Okay. What is Mr. Lincoln trying to say? This line of this paragraph, of course, is in relation to the penultimate paragraph where the author claimed that if Ranade were a politician, he wouldn't have been great. So the inference is The author probably thinks politicians aren't great. You can figure out what Abraham Lincoln says here. What does he say? In your own lines, in your own words. What does Lincoln say here? What is he trying to say? Acolytes of Ranade, but it may sound in negative context. Okay. Okay. Others? What does Mr. Lincoln say here? It's basically a play of words. The gist is easy. The politician not only think about the benefit of the common people, but they think more about, yes, exactly. So the writer here says, quotes Abraham Lincoln, and he describes politicians. He says, politicians are supposed to speak for the common people, but on the contrary, they don't do that. Politicians are not honest. Absolutely, Abhishek. He criticizes politicians here. The whole paragraph is a criticism to politicians. Yes, Disha, they have their own vested interest, which may not be in favor of the masses. Perfect, Disha, perfect. Perfect summary of what Lincoln said here. And that's exactly why the writer here is so happy that Ranade was not a politician, because he thought for the masses, he thought for the society. And if he were a politician, he would not have done that, because politicians don't think for the masses or the benefit of the masses or the benefit of the citizens. This article is written by, I'll give you hints, okay? You keep guessing. I'll see. Okay, you have a dairy milk for somebody, if I can show the brand. You have a chocolate for somebody who guesses the name first as the writer. He is one of the founders of our free nation. He is the founders of our democracy. Okay? So, yes, they have self-interest as well, if you can guess. Now, I'll keep giving you more hints. Okay, now Ranade was not a politician, and he says every politician that he knows, they have never studied politics. What kind of politician are you? If you have not studied politics, how are you going to be a politician? How can I be an English teacher if I have not studied English? How can you be a manager if you have not studied management? So he says, I don't know of any of the politicians who have studied politics in detail. So he goes on to appreciate him. We have a word, profundity. What does that mean? Read the line. There was no subject which he did not touch and in which he did not acquire profundity. What does that mean? What is profundity here? Diya, you get the chocolate. He is Mr. B.R. Ambedkar, the founding fathers of our constitution. This article is written by B.R. Ambedkar. If I talk about our country's history, if you have any article on our country's history, his name will never go missed. You have to touch upon his name. The entire constitution we follow today, thanks to him. He is B.R. Ambedkar, is the writer of this article. There are many conversations, many books that are written on and by B.R. Ambedkar, where he has a recollection of the prominent people who helped in establishing a democratic country that we enjoy today. Okay. All right. So, profundity is excellence, perfectionist, yes. With a lot of deep interest is profundity. She says there was none of the subjects which he did not touch, and then when he touched a subject, he would get better and better and understand it in depth. So profound is very deep and very strong. He would understand the subject in a lot of depth. That's profundity. Okay. And his reading, see, there are reasons why people become judges. You have to read a lot. You become a lawyer. Diya, you would understand that. You become a lawyer and then you read a lot, you practice a lot, and then you become a judge someday. That kind of reading is called colossal here. Colossal is huge, massive, like the universe. So he says his reading was on a scale of being colossal, massive reading, in-depth reading. And that's why you can call him a scholar. Till this part, you see the entire page again is an appreciation of Ranade only. So possibly the entire article is written for appreciation, adulation, reverence to Ranade. And, saying good things about who he was as a person, as a person who contributed to the society. And then we have an important line. Ranade could not be called great if he had only these two qualities and no more. That means the author says he had many qualities. He has mentioned some. But then, were these the only qualities he had? No, he had many, many more. And because he had many, many more, that's exactly why he becomes great. Not only because of these qualities that are mentioned here. It's probably many, many more qualities that he had. And that's why you call him the greatest man our country has probably ever seen. Let's move on to the next paragraph. Here, read this and send me a done. No, Neha. It's basically with a lot of interest, with a lot of depth. Probably, yes, you can link it that way because you want to find out what's there deep inside. You can link it that way. Okay, so this part is merely a part of the premise, showing the background that he was born in, and that background probably wasn't a great one. So the kind of might that he has is a surprise, and people are impressed with his might because the kind of area that he was born in, the family setup he was born in, it was the virtue that he learned and his courage that came by. Virtue we've discussed so many times in detail in our philosophical articles. I'm sure you know what virtue here is, your ethics. So it is ethics and his courage both came by and helped him become a mighty man in our country. Okay, now he calls him almost a prophet. Can you imagine the kind of liking B.R. Ambedkar has for Ranade? And he says he is more of a social reformer than a historian, an economist, an educationist. Imagine this line coming from another man who also was more of a social reformer than a historian or economist or educationist. Imagine the kind of level these two people had and the appreciation one had for the other, where B.R. Ambedkar himself was a social reformer, right? Abolition of untouchability, Harijan, you remember all that, right? And then he was also a historian because he founded our constitution. He headed the Constitutional Assembly. He was an economist, yes, and he was an educationist as well. Imagine a person of that stature calling the other person similar. You need to be humble to do that for sure. So he calls him a prophet. He says Ranade is almost a prophet, not in the Islamic sense, but in the Jewish sense. Nonetheless, that also is a very influential position in Jewism. So it's not a small word that he uses for Ranade. Again, appreciation goes on. But then, do you see why does he talk about the fall of Maratha Empire here? What is the relevance of the fall of Maratha Empire with Ranade being a mighty man? Did you get the relationship? Exactly, roosters. Do you understand why is the downfall of Maratha Empire mentioned here to showcase the might Ranade had? I'll show you the next paragraph. Probably that's going to be clearer to you why the fall of Maratha Empire was mentioned. Read this part, you'll get it. There's a story you just need to follow here. The entire story of the fall of the Maratha Empire is given to you to come to a conclusion. What is the conclusion? What is the conclusion here? Why was this entire story of the downfall of Maratha Empire and Britishers ruining our country and relationship between the Maratha Empire and the Britishers rule was given to you? What is the conclusion that the author is trying to draw here? I'll wait for your answers. The influence that downfall had on him and his community had an impact on him that led to him being the person he became. On the contrary, what was expected out of the downfall was people would surrender, resign, be sad, feel the defeat. That's what's expected out of a person who's been through, or a community who's been through something of the sort the Maratha Empire saw, the entire downfall. But he didn't budge. He took it as something that motivated him to work for the betterment of the society, the upliftment of the people, and not being a defeatist and surrender. That the downfall influenced people in a way that they should be taking a step, but Ranade stem at a different level. Exactly, that's the conclusion the author draws. With the entire story of the fall of Maratha Empire, he was a Marathi, okay? And with the entire story of the fall of the Maratha Empire, people would have behaved in this manner. That's expected out of people. That's exactly how the rest of the Indians probably behaved, a lot of us. But he didn't react that way. He reacted very differently. He came out victorious, the opposite of these. That's the conclusion the author draws here. Read the last few lines and you'll look at the might this man has. Exactly, Prats, giving you a positive direction. He held out the hope that the fallen shall rise, not being defeated, but we shall rise. And that's exactly how B.R. Ambedkar also believed. And that's what led to a constitution. Guys, I have to tell you this. I'm sure Dia knows it, but all of you might not know this. But our constitution is the oldest constitution in the world. Why do I call it oldest? Because if you look at the average of the survival of any constitution throughout the world, a constitution average doesn't last beyond 5 years. If you look at the average throughout the world. How old is our constitution? We have some amendments, but our constitution continues to be in its place. A few amendments here and there, but our constitution is intact. So, ever since our country got independence, our constitution continues to guide us of what's right and what's wrong and what we are supposed to do and what we are not supposed to do and what are our rights and duties. So our constitution is the world's oldest constitution. None of the constitutions have survived so long. Probably because of people like them. Because they believed if we have fallen, we shall rise, and not being merely a defeated person. Indeed, he developed a new faith on which this hope was founded. Let me quote his own words. Let's read what he says. He says, I profess implicit faith in two articles of my creed. Creed, people like him. This country of ours is the true land of promise. This race of ours is the chosen race. If we are chosen, we are special. We are going to come out victorious. If we are born in India, this is the true land of promise. We are going to come out victorious. If he believed in the people of the country, if he believed in the country, I'm sure he led to a lot of contribution to the society as well. So, exactly, yes, it's the longest of all. So ultimately, this line shows the might this man had, and the tone of the entire passage is an appreciation one. But this article is only a precursor of what's going to follow. So I have a surprise for you, okay? But before I show you the surprise, I have to show you a few things. We're not just going to discuss the gist because the gist is easy and the tone is easy. But as I said, it is only a prelude to what's going to follow after this one. But before I show you the surprise, let's talk about a few things. One, we have our last lap to MHCET 2022 starting 1st of August. So every day at 9 p.m. from 1st of August, we'll have our last lap to MHCET starting off. If you are sitting for this examination or any other MBA competitive examination, make sure you attend these series every day at 9 p.m. from 1st of August. We have roughly 20 power pack sessions. We have high probability questions, and our questions usually, if you predict them, they usually come up in the examinations. I'm sure you want to boost your score. Join us 9 p.m. daily on from 1st of August to 20 more days ahead. And if you wish to prepare for CAT 2022, we have a comprehensive program that we have launched where you're going to be trained under the guidance of serial 100, 99 percentilers. Don't miss out on the opportunity. Don't be late. Don't be in a position of being regretful. Rush up. Call our counselors on the number that's given under the video. Okay, so here we go. What is the surprise? The surprise is here. Read the page. I'll show you 3 pages, okay? And then I have 5 questions with options that follow. So I will not explain anything in the article to you. This is another extract from another popular book. This talks about Abraham Lincoln and his statesmanship. So read this. If you're confused, don't ask me. Once you're done with the page, send me a done. I'll show you 3 pages and I have 5 questions with options which you have to tell me the answers for. Take it as an RC. Good luck. Roosters, read the page. Yes, Shweta, absolutely. No, I haven't, Abhishek, I haven't. Changing the slide. Changing the slide. Done? All right, so let's have a look at the first question, everyone. I'll not tell you the gist, I'll not tell you any answers. Answer this question in the chat box. What's your answer? Okay, see? See? But then, okay guys, all of you say see, I'll give you a counter argument. He was favoring the slaves. He wanted their emancipation, right? In the whole passage, he wanted their emancipation. But was it a wrong thing? The World War was coming to an end. Sorry, the Civil War was coming to an end. He wanted the slaves to be free because they are supposed to be free. They can't be in bonded labor. Was he unreasonable in that fact? No, certainly not. Because there's another point. He says, I am not going to punish the slave owners as well. When you go back to the last paragraph and you see, he refuses to execute this head as well. Why? Because he says, you have to be moving out of resentments. We need harmony. We don't need this hatred. So he was somebody who would put himself in everyone else's shoes, be it the slave owners, be it the slaves themselves, and understand what everyone went through. He was a very sympathetic, kind-hearted statesman. C is absolutely our correct answer here. Exactly. Other options are absolutely irrelevant. Next question. Before I show you the question, hit the like button if you haven't done that yet. Hit the share button if you haven't done that yet. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Okay. So, Gunwant, I would partially agree with what you're saying. He wanted their support as well. Exactly. So, let's move to the next question. According to Lincoln, the culprits of the system of the slavery were, who were the culprits? Okay. C, D, D. Okay. C. It's more of a factual question though. Let me explain the correct answer here. So, there's an instance in the passage where Lincoln says, I am sympathetic towards the slaves as well as the slave owners, because this entire system of slavery and you being a slave owner, who has perpetuated it? All of us in the country have. Not one person is responsible. Slave owners alone? No. You and I also are responsible. So we have to be sympathetic towards the slaves as well as the slave owners. According to him, all of the people, you and I as well, are responsible for this situation and for this war in our country. The civil war in our country. So not both the slave and the slave owners, but you and I as well. It's D. Hi Tushar, it is D. It's a factual question, okay? So D is the correct answer. Next question. Lincoln's reply to Northerners' question regarding the Southerners proves that. I'll show you the question, okay? Let's have a look at the question here. Mr. President, how are you going to treat the Southerners when the war is over? These were the slave owners, right? So the Northerners say, how will you treat the Southerners? They were the slave owners. Will you kill them? Will you punish them? And then there's an answer, as if they never went to war. Let's see, what can you infer from the question? Here are your options. B, B, D, B. Okay, everyone says B. Can you eliminate D for me? Everyone unanimously says B. Eliminate D for me. D says Lincoln could control his anguish against the Southerners while expressing himself. Was he unhappy? Probably not. Eliminate D for me. Oh, just a minute. Wait, something's wrong. Wait, just a minute, guys. Eliminate D for me. Eliminate D. What's wrong with D? He had no anguish for them. He was a sympathetic statesman, right? That's what the whole passage says. And when he was a... What's happening? Yep. So when he was a sympathetic statesman, he cannot have any anguish against the Southerners. This option means he had hatred, but he was controlling his hatred while answering the question. Whereas B says he had no hatred towards Southerners. He considered the Southerners and the Northerners and all of us equally responsible. Exactly, yes. He expressed that he will treat them as nothing happened at all. He would keep a blind eye and he would treat all of them equal, be it Southerners, be it Northerners. So, absolutely B as the correct answer. Next question. Lincoln did not have any hatred for the slave owners. Why? Why he did not hate the slave owners? He should have, right? These people were responsible for the Civil War. These people were responsible for suppressing the blacks, if I may use the word, in a non-offensive manner. He needs harmony, not anger. Yes. So, why did he not have any hatred towards the slave owners? You probably are going to be confused here. D? 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 Oh, I thought you would be confused because there's a word malice in the passage. But that's not written with reference to the hate, no hatred for slave owners. He says, if I hate the slave owners, I would do an act in malice. And I don't want to do with the position I am in. I cannot do any act with hatred or ill intention. I can't do that. But this is not the reason. They is wrong. Slave owners will not treat him with malice. He would do an act in malice. That's what the meaning of the line was. This is wrong. The answer is none of these. He did not want to do anything that would be with ill intention. Malice is a wrongdoing. Okay? An ill intention. Mal is the root word here. Mal is bad. So anything done with bad intention. If he had hated the slave owners, if he had punished the slave owners, he would have done something with bad intention of hurting people. And with the position he was in, he could not have afforded to do any of that. Fact, thus this cannot be the answer because the slave owners will not treat him with malice. He would treat them with malice on the other hand. Thus, none of these. D is our correct answer. Last question. Revulsion. You want to see the word? If you don't know the meaning, here you go. This page has revulsion. I can't find it. You just answered the question. Here you go. Answer the meaning. Disgust, avenge, apathy, violence. Okay, Victor. Others? See? Revulsion is a supremely negative word. Okay? And it means hatred. The correct answer is a disgust. It's A. Okay, just a minute. Here you are. This word. Read the line again. You would get the answer. Okay, that's A. So revulsion is hatred. Malice. His hatred for slavery left him without any moral indication. He hated slavery, but he had no hatred for the slave owners. He was a sympathetic statement. Okay? Question 9, repeat. Okay, I'll repeat that. Question 9 says, okay, a lot of you might have thought C. So, Lincoln has been quoted in the passage where Lincoln says that if I treat the slave owners with revulsion, if I treat the slave owners with hatred and I punish them because they did something wrong, it would be malice. It would be doing something with bad intention. And I don't want to do anything with bad intention because the position I am in, I cannot do things with a bad intention in my head, with malice in my head. Lincoln did not have any hatred for slave owners because he did not want to treat the slave owners with malice. Option C says they would have treated him with malice. Will the slave owners treat Lincoln with malice, or will Lincoln treat the slave owners with malice? It's the other way around. Lincoln would have treated them with malice if he had punished them, and he did not want to do that. Slave owners had no right to treat anybody with malice because they had been doing that all their lives, keeping slaves, working for themselves. So, slave owners would have no malice for Lincoln because they knew they did something wrong, and that's exactly why C cannot be the answer. It can be none of the above. Okay? All right. So, why not apathy? Apathy is pat means feel. Apathy is no feeling at all. Had it been antipathy, I would have marked antipathy or disgust both as synonyms. Apathy is indifferent. Revulsion is a complete negative word. Lincoln, hated slavery. He worked for equality of people in his country. He had a serious negative feeling for slavery but not slave owners. Whereas apathy means no feeling at all. If he was indifferent, he would not use revulsion for slavery. Yes, you remember that line. See, look at this. Lincoln's revulsion for slavery left him without any moral indignation. He was not, indifferent to slavery. He hated it, but he did not hate the slave owners, is what the line means. So I hope you understand why apathy cannot be the answer and antipathy could be an answer. Antipathy is hatred, okay? Apathy is no feeling at all. So sympathy, positive. Apathy, no feeling. Antipathy, hatred. That's the difference. Okay? Alright, so I hope you get the meaning of all the words here. These were the 5 questions here. Okay, now, did you like this article? Did you like solving these questions? Did you? Do you want me to bring such articles on and off, probably once a month, twice a month, out of all the classes that we have? I hope you learned something about history. I hope you learned how to handle articles on history. I hope it was a fruitful class. Yes? So do not leave the class without liking it, commenting under my video, and sharing it with everyone. So I shall see you again day after tomorrow, very likely with an Aeon article. We haven't done Aeon in quite a while. So let's take an Aeon article next class. Okay. And probably literature. We haven't done literature in a while. So let me try to find out some article on literature. And yes, Prads, what's your question? Tell me. Thank you, everyone. Tell me what's your question, Prads. Others, please make sure that you follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, our Telegram channel. The link is there in the description box, and please download our app on Google Play as well. What's your question, Prads? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. No, not tomorrow, Abhishek, day after tomorrow. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have a class on this platform. Ma'am, will you share an article? No, not today. Thursday. Should we read daily articles too, skimming or detailed reading? Skimming. You have to practice skimming. Daily articles also need to be skimmed. You need to get into the hang of how to skim. Okay? And even when you skim, you don't miss out on important information. You can't be reading every article in so much of detail. Even with skimming, you will get the basic idea. You will be able to answer inference and main idea questions. You will be able to find out difficult words as well. So practice skimming. Yes, Abhishek, only 2 days a week. Alright guys, so I'll take a leave then. I'll see you day after tomorrow, Thursday, with Aeon article. Have a very good day, everyone. Work really hard. God bless you. See you super soon. Bye, everyone.